Hey guys, this is Jason. Just wanted to give you an update on what happened with the historic house here in Norwood. Came out here today to do a little bit of yard work and I'm taking a break, so I thought I would just break my camera out, get a little footage. When I bought this property less than a year ago, I didn't anticipate certain things that happened since then. One of them was when I did the walkthrough of that initial video, it was basically just a stream of consciousness video. I was excited about the property, kind of wanted just to start filming the progress on it, and I didn't think it would be sitting here this long. Because of the pandemic though, I've had to make some adjustments to how quickly I can renovate the house. One of the things is that I work full-time. So let me talk a little bit about what I've had to change and what my plans are because of what the pandemic has kind of forced me to do. Basically, I've had to become a lot more conservative with my money. So let me go ahead and explain that now. So when you last saw me, I was at the house, I was working on the yard. So let's get into it and talk specifically about the reasons why there hasn't been much progress on that house. First of all, about a year ago when I bought the house, it was just the beginning of the pandemic. And because of the pandemic, I've had to become a lot more conservative with my money. Pretty much all the real estate endeavors that I do are funded strictly with my own money. I have a small loan on a vacation property in Tennessee, about $10,000. And then I have about another $30,000 loan on a rental house. Everything else that I own pretty much is all money that I've had to save and to earn over the years. So basically when the pandemic started, I had to make some hard decisions. Specifically when the lumber prices started to go up extremely higher than I expected. Pretty much the two contractors that I mainly work with, they became a lot more expensive. The lumber prices, which is specifically the portion of the house that I need to do right now. It's all the framing, all the sheathing, the subfloors and all that. All those costs dramatically increased. And so I made the tough decision to forego working on that house and to put pretty much all my time and money into some other flips that I had going at the time. You saw the last one that I did, the blue house in Center Point. Currently, I'm about halfway through a house that my brother and I own together. We bought it as a foreclosure in the Southeast Lake part of Birmingham. And hopefully in about a month and a half, we can get that one on the market. But that's the main reason is that, I had anticipated being able to concentrate on that house. And when the pandemic hit, I decided to reroute my funds to work on some other projects because that house is going to take a lot of work and a lot of money to do. Currently, I'm anticipating probably about $150,000, and that is with me doing some of the finish work myself. I actually worked for a couple of years as a handyman to a friend of mine from New York that was a remodeler when I was in Tennessee. He moved out of Tennessee, and on and off throughout about a 3 or 4 year period, I worked with him part-time learning how to renovate. I actually built my own house in Tennessee before I moved to Birmingham, and I started building a vacation house that a lot of my funds are actually going into right now to finish because that is where my mom is trying to move. She actually lives in the house right now, but it's not completed. So like a lot of real estate investors that start out and have limited funds, a lot of my money is spread throughout various projects from Tennessee to Birmingham. So what I'm hoping to do actually is the property that my brother and I are working on in Southeast Lake. When that is sold, I'll take a portion of the profit and then get the framing done on the Norwood house. And then there's a contract that I just signed the other day on another flip that I'm going to do in Gardendale, and I'll actually walk through both of those with you guys the next week or two, kind of showing you where they're at and talk a little bit about what I want to do with them and what I'm anticipating being able to sell them for. There's a couple of things that I want to address, however. I really did not anticipate as much interest in my channel or even the houses that I posted on there when I first started the YouTube channel, especially that beautiful Craftsman house in Norwood. Just to give you my overview of that house, as I mentioned in the very first video, that is a house that I'm going to hold long term. So it's not a flip, even though some people have commented that or indicated that it's a flip. I'm not flipping that house. That is a long-term house that I'm hoping to Airbnb. And because of that, I'm going to make specific choices with that house. It is a beautiful Craftsman house. And even though the first video that I made was just basically a stream of consciousness video where I was walking through the house, giving my thoughts about it, and I mentioned a couple of things that I think were misinterpreted. One thing to realize is that Norwood is a historic district here in Birmingham, and all the houses, the exterior facade of the houses have to remain true to the historic period that they were built in. And I'll give a little bit more history on that house coming up. I'll go to the historic archives and see if I can pull some historic photos, at least of the outside, and also show you guys a little bit of the history of it. But there's not going to be any changes to the outside. So that all the beautiful Craftsman features that you saw on that house, I'm hoping to bring them all back. The beautiful eyebrow dormer that's on the roof that you'll see a part of in this video, hopefully, that isn't there currently. The frame was so rotted we had to take the whole thing down, and in order to be able to cover the roof temporarily, that had to be removed. But all of that will be put back. So again, let me reiterate, everything on the outside of the house is going to be put back, hopefully as close as I can get it to the original Craftsman detail that you see in there. I bought it because it was a passion project that I really want to restore this house that had been sitting dormant for probably well over a decade. And so I also, like many of you, want to keep as many of the beautiful features of that house as possible. So again, I'll reiterate that the details of the exterior are all going to remain the same. Now with the interior, I did mention in there that my particular style of house is a more modern, contemporary style. It doesn't mean I don't appreciate the Craftsman style. In fact, I do very much. That's one of the reasons why I bought that house. And I also mentioned in the first video that I wanted to do some Tuscan detailing or some Tuscan styling with that house. All I meant at that particular time were just some interior details, some interior styling of the house. I'm not an interior designer, but at the time when I made that video, I was enthralled with the massive brickwork that you see on that house. It just reminded me a lot of the beautiful Tuscan villas that I fell in love with when I watched channels such as Kylie Flavel that lives, I think she lives in Tuscany. And she shows a lot of the beautiful architecture that's in Italy. And so at the time when I made that initial video, as I mentioned, it was a stream of consciousness when I was walking around. And though that beautiful arch at the front, the beautiful timber frame that you see at the front, and just the thickness of the foundation walls and of the brickwork, just reminded me of some of the homes I saw on YouTube in Tuscany. And so I think people misinterpret that to believe that I was going to change the entire house into a Tuscan design house, which was never the intention and was never what I wanted to do with that house. So again, I really don't know what the end product is going to end up being, but I also love a lot of the Craftsman details of the interior. The beautiful fireplace that's there with all those lovely details. The columns that you see when you first walk into the house that kind of frame the stairway going upstairs, all the trim work you see, the large beautiful moldings, pretty much most of that is going to remain the same. I started to review a lot of the comments that said, hey, leave those columns that you see when you walk in, because it's a part of the architecture that was put into the house. And to be quite honest with you, that house, the layout and architecture is pretty. It's so pretty, and it's so uncommon to find a house that's a craftsman style that has such a wonderful layout just in general, that pretty much most of that I want to keep and have it remain the same. One thing to keep in mind though is that there are 3 main rooms downstairs that aren't the kitchen. There's a main living room when you first walk into the door, and then to your right is a sitting room that I called a lounge in the first video. But there's another room that's on the left side of the corridor that you see right beside the staircase, and that is really, I guess that was a parlor room in its early inception. But I would really like to have a master bedroom downstairs. There's not many houses that are built, that are 2-story houses that are built with a master downstairs. Well, I shouldn't say that. There are many houses when they're freshly built nowadays with a master downstairs, but there are not many older historic homes with a master bedroom downstairs. And so because of what I foresee with the house in terms of my family being able to come there in the future, in terms of what I want to have in that house and to be able to use that house for, it doesn't make sense to have a living room, a lounge, and then another parlor room. There's plenty of room downstairs to be able to easily convert that back parlor room with the lovely coffered ceiling into a beautiful bedroom. It's got those built-in pocket doors. And so I'm going to leave that beautiful architectural detail once we strip down the walls and get into it, because right now those doors are stuck. So we're going to have to open up the walls to be able to figure out how to get them working again. I may have to put in new mechanisms in there to be able to make sure that they function properly and don't swell up and get stuck in the future. But in the back portion of the house is another area where a lot of people were commenting that I should not turn the butler's pantry into a bathroom downstairs, a full bathroom. Now, one of the things to consider with that butler's pantry is that, from what I can tell, that back portion of the house was probably a later addition to the house. And I mainly believe that because of the difference in how the framing is in that butler pantry area in comparison to the front of the house. And so, you know, in order for me to be able to have a master suite downstairs, I'm going to have to make a tough decision. And since that butler's pantry wasn't really the original butler's pantry that was in there, I don't know if it was changed later at some point or whatnot, but the cabinets that are in there, you know, aren't really high grade cabinets. And so I know a lot of you might be disheartened about the fact that I'm going to turn that into a bathroom, but I believe that's going to be the best option to be able to get a full bathroom downstairs so you can have a master suite without chopping up the house and leaving pretty much the layout that you have downstairs as is. Now, upstairs, again, I mentioned there are four rooms up there. One of them is going to become a master suite with its own private bathroom, and then two other bedrooms will remain the same and share a common bathroom upstairs. And so that's pretty much exactly where we're at with the house. One other thing I'd like to mention too is that I really love the fact that you guys are interested in the house, and I really appreciate the comments that you guys leave. However, once in a while, there is a comment on there that I understand that people are passionate about architecture. They're passionate about saving historic homes, but I don't appreciate when people leave comments that aren't constructive criticism. If you leave constructive criticism, even if you completely disagree with me, even if you think what I'm doing is completely wrong, as long as it's left in a constructive way, I have no problem with it. When it becomes demeaning or belittling, that's where I draw the line. So please, as we go forward with this channel, anything you want to leave on there, even if you completely disagree with me. Again, I don't mind that, because I think, you know, architecture, especially with older, beautiful American homes, I, as many of you do, believe if it's possible to save them and possible to restore them, you know, we should do that if it makes sense for us. And this is one house that I'm determined to do that, even though I've never taken on a project this large. And so I appreciate all your support. And I thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I'm going to probably be sharing more of the flips that I'm working on coming up. But as soon as I start to frame out the house, the first day the contractor gets there and start doing the framing, I'll start filming. I'll let you guys know, and we'll start getting back to see how quickly we can get the framing done on that house, and how quickly we can start moving further with that property.